Sister declared my condo a family space and told me to move out. Parents supported her because she's a mom. She tried to take my home, but the police took her instead. Hey Reddit. I grew up in one of those homes where my sister could do absolutely no wrong, and I was the one expected to hold everything together. So I busted my tail, saved every penny, bought my own place, and thought I'd finally carved out some freedom. Turns out my family had a different script in mind. But let me rewind a little. My name's Maya, I'm 32, single, child-free, and work in IT. My folks still live about half an hour away, in the same neighborhood where we grew up. My younger sister Laura is 28, married to Ethan, and they've got a 1-year-old daughter. Laura's always been the golden one, the kind teachers adored and neighbors couldn't stop praising. Meanwhile, I was the kid mowing lawns all summer while she focused on school. My parents never outright said they had a favorite, but somehow whenever something went wrong it was pinned on me. And when Laura needed help, the entire household rallied like she was a celebrity in crisis. 2 months ago, I finally paid off my condo, a modest 2-bedroom spot in Chicago. Nothing fancy, but every inch of it was mine. The fridge was secondhand and made this low groaning noise every time it started up. My dining table was a cheap one I assembled myself, crooked enough to wobble if you leaned on it. I even turned a closet into a tiny home office because buying a place with a real one wasn't in my budget. For years, that condo was my finish line. I skipped vacations, kept driving a car old enough to qualify for retirement, and taught myself to fix things from YouTube videos instead of calling plumbers. My friends spent weekends at bars. I spent them doing delivery runs to save extra cash. When that envelope from the bank arrived saying my mortgage was fully paid, I stuck the letter on my fridge with a dumb cow-shaped magnet. It was hands down the proudest moment of my life. So when Laura showed up that random Tuesday afternoon, I figured maybe she was there to say congrats. She rarely visits by herself. Usually, if she's in town, she brings our parents or Ethan along. But this time it was just her, standing at my doorway with an oversized iced coffee and that smug, own the place look. Hey, I said, stepping aside to let her in. She didn't answer, just started wandering through my place like she was doing a walkthrough before signing a lease. She peeked into the spare bedroom, the bathroom, even my little office closet. Finally, she stopped in the kitchen, hands on her hips. This place looks bigger than I remember, she said. Thanks. I replied. She gave a little nod like she'd confirmed something in her head. Then she turned and looked straight at me. So, she started like we'd been mid-conversation. We've decided this house should belong to the family now. I blinked. I'm sorry, what? A family home, she said again, slower this time like I was the one missing the point. It's kind of silly for you to keep all this space to yourself when Ethan and I have a baby and rent prices are insane. We're moving in. You can find another place. She said it so casually like she was commenting on the weather. I laughed because what else could I do? But she didn't laugh. Instead, she crossed her arms and looked at me like I was being unreasonable. Wait, you're serious? I asked. Of course, she said. Mom and Dad agree. Just makes sense. You don't need all this room. It's just you. I looked around my small condo like maybe she saw a secret ballroom I didn't know existed. You can't just decide that, I said. Laura rolled her eyes. Don't be dramatic. It's a family place now. You'll get it when you have kids someday. That line made me laugh harder. Laura, this isn't some shared family property. I bought it. It's mine. She waved a hand like ownership was a technicality. Yeah, but come on. It's not fair for you to keep it when we need it more. You can rent a little apartment somewhere. You don't even use the second bedroom. I just stood there, stunned. I'd heard some pretty wild stuff from my family over the years, but this topped everything. You already talked to Mom and Dad? I asked. Of course, she said like it was obvious. They think it's completely reasonable. Do they also think I'm just gonna hand over my keys? I shot back. Laura sighed like I was being selfish. Look, we're not trying to fight. It's just what's best for everyone. Ethan's hours got cut, daycare is a nightmare, and you're sitting here with all this space doing nothing. It's kind of selfish, don't you think? Selfish. That word hit me like a slap. I'd spent years scraping, saving, working overtime, and now I was selfish for not giving it all away. She grabbed her coffee from the counter like the whole discussion was settled. We'll need to move in by the end of next month. Gives you time to find somewhere. She was already at the door when I finally snapped out of it. Laura, I said, catching up. You're not moving in here. She paused with her hand on the knob and gave me this calm, almost pitying smile. We already talked to Mom and Dad, she said again. Then she left. I stood in my living room staring at the closed door. Behind me, the fridge kicked on with its usual groan, and I glanced at that mortgage letter still stuck under the cow magnet. For a second, I wondered if I'd hallucinated the whole exchange. But no, Laura meant it. And apparently my parents did too. I wasn't even mad yet, just disoriented. Like the ground had tilted and I was waiting to see how far it'd go. After she left, I just stood there, staring at the door like it might open again. It didn't. I sat down, opened my laptop, tried to get back to work, but my mind kept circling her words. Family asset. Like she and Ethan had the right to decide what was mine. Anyway, I figured if I'm gonna tell this story, I might as well explain how it really began, because this didn't start yesterday. I've been working since I was 16. My first job was bussing tables at this grimy diner near our high school. Minimum wage plus tips, if the customers were feeling nice, which most weren't. After that came summer shifts at the hardware store. After that, I picked up a part-time job at the campus library while I was in college. By the time graduation rolled around, I developed this reflex to say yes anytime someone offered extra hours. I lived cheap, real cheap, for a long while. My first apartment was a tiny studio that faced a brick wall. With furniture I scavenged off Craigslist. Meanwhile, Laura was living a completely different life. She's 4 years younger than me, and our parents practically rolled out the red carpet for her. They paid for her cheer camp, her driving lessons, her prom dress, while telling me they were tight on money when I needed new brakes on my old car. Laura was the family favorite through and through. Teachers adored her, neighbors gushed about her, and if she ever dropped the ball on an assignment, my parents brushed it off as her being tired. But if I brought home a B instead of an A, they wanted to know why I wasn't studying harder. It wasn't that she was mean or anything. Laura wasn't evil. She just grew up in a world that always tilted in her favor. When I was in college, she got accepted into some fancy private university with tuition numbers that made me dizzy. My parents didn't hesitate to co-sign her loans, while I scraped through a state school on scholarships and side jobs. She studied communications and posted endless photos at football games, beach trips, and coffee shops that charged more for lattes than my lunch budget for the week. I was holed up in the library, grinding through projects before heading to my 6 a.m. warehouse shift unloading boxes. When I bought my condo 5 years ago, it was the cheapest 2-bedroom I could find in a part of Chicago that wasn't falling apart. The place needed work. Paint peeling, appliances older than me, floors that squeaked if you breathed too hard, but it was mine. I'll never forget signing those papers. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold the pen, terrified I'd mess something up. Laura came by once, took a quick look around and wrinkled her nose. "It's cozy," she said, which we both knew meant small. I told her it's what I could afford. She gave me a polite little smile and said, "I mean, I could never live somewhere like this, but good for you." That line stuck with me. I kept grinding. Extra shifts fixing people's laptops on weekends, living off instant noodles, wearing the same shoes for years, just to make this place work. And my sister treated it like it was a starter apartment she was too good for. Fast forward a bit, Laura marries Ethan. He's a decent guy, quiet, polite, teaches middle school science. We never talked much, but he always seemed fine. They rented this really nice 3-bedroom apartment nearby. New building, gym, rooftop deck, all that stuff. Way nicer than my condo, honestly. Then they had their baby last year and she's adorable. I sent gifts, visited, tried to be a good aunt. But before long, I started hearing little hints in conversation about how things were tight. Ethan's hours got cut, daycare was expensive. Laura quit her marketing gig to stay home. I figured they'd downsize like most people do when life gets expensive. But instead, Laura decided my condo was suddenly a family property. Like it automatically reverted to community ownership because we shared DNA. And of course my parents backed her up. No surprise there. The difference now is that this condo isn't some family toy everyone gets to borrow. It's the one thing I scraped together for myself, the one thing that's fully mine. And Laura thought she could just waltz in, claim it, and have Mom and Dad nod along because they always do. But here's the thing, I'm not that kid anymore. I'm not living under their roof, eating their groceries, or borrowing their car. I pay my own bills. I take care of my home. I finally built something solid beneath my feet. And when Laura called me selfish for keeping what I worked so hard for, something inside me snapped, part anger, part defiance I didn't even know I had. Because this time it's not about toys or car rides. This is my home. And I'm not giving it up. The next morning my phone rang. It was Mom. "Sweetie, I heard you were a little tense yesterday," she said, using that soft tone people use when they're about to scold you but want to sound nice about it. "Tense?" I asked. "Laura told us what happened. You have to understand her situation. They've got a baby. Rent is impossible right now." "Mom," I said, "she didn't ask. She just showed up and announced she was moving into my house." Mom sighed like I just confessed to a crime. "She probably just assumed you'd help out. Family helps each other, that's what we do." "Yeah, but helping and giving up your home aren't the same thing," I said. She didn't seem to agree. "You don't even use the second bedroom," she added. "It's just sitting there while they're struggling. Doesn't seem fair." I told her again it wasn't happening. "We'll talk more at dinner Sunday," she said. That was news to me. I didn't even know about this dinner. By lunchtime Dad called. Same script, but his tone was heavier, disappointed. He started talking about the bigger picture and how I needed to step up. I reminded him I wasn't the one trying to take someone else's home. He told me not to be dramatic. Then came a text from my aunt, someone I haven't seen in over a year, telling me, "Honey, they just need a break. You can get another place later." Like I had a spare condo lying around somewhere. That evening, Laura sent a long text explaining how this was temporary and for the good of the family. She even attached a spreadsheet Ethan made, outlining how much money they'd save moving in with me. It had rent listed as 0, utilities split in half, and not a single mention of HOA fees or repairs. Like my condo magically maintained itself. I didn't reply. Instead, I went to my complex's website and checked the standard lease terms. Turns out, breaking their lease early costs 3 months' rent. My eyebrows went up. So that's what this was really about, not space, not family, just money. A couple hours later, I called my buddy Sam, who works the front desk at a real estate office nearby. I asked him how rental applications have been lately, what kinds of things were getting people denied. He said a lot of folks were getting turned away lately, missed payments, debt piling up, credit scores in free fall. He didn't name names, but the dots connected themselves pretty fast. I didn't tell Mom or Dad anything yet. No point starting that fire before I had to. Then Friday rolled around, and sure enough, the phone rang again. "Mom, this time. We're having family dinner Sunday," she said. "Everyone will be there. We can talk things through calmly." Calmly, sure. I already knew exactly how those calm family dinners went. A table full of relatives smiling politely, while they all take turns telling you why you're wrong until you eventually cave. It's like an intervention, only with more garlic bread. Still, I said fine. I'd show up. Saturday night, Laura texted me again. "We need to be out of here in 4 weeks. Don't make this harder than it has to be." Harder for who, I wondered. I didn't bother replying. Sunday afternoon, I drove over to my parents' house. Same old place I grew up in, the wallpaper still peeling in the hallway. The couch still sagging in the middle because Dad refuses to replace it. The smell of garlic bread hit me the second I walked through the door. The table was already set. Laura and Ethan were sitting side by side like they were about to host a press conference, and my parents were in the kitchen pretending to stay busy. "Hey," I said. Laura smiled like nothing was wrong. "Hey, we're just about to eat." I knew what was coming before anyone opened their mouths. Laura had that practiced smile she used whenever she was about to ask for something huge. Ethan looked like he wanted to melt into his chair. My parents exchanged quiet looks like they'd rehearsed this whole thing. Laura started first, her voice soft and patient. "We'd only need the condo for about a year," she said, like she was doing me a favor by setting a deadline. "A year?" I repeated. "Well, maybe less," she added quickly. "Depends on how soon we get back on our feet." She slid a folder across the table toward me. Mark and I put together a plan, budget, timeline, everything. Ethan cleared his throat. "It's pretty organized," he said. "We'd cover utilities, obviously. Just not rent since you already own the place." "Utilities?" I asked, flipping through the pages. That's it. Laura nodded like she thought she was being generous. Mom leaned forward. Honey, it's temporary. Think of the baby. She needs her own room. I looked straight at Laura. You already rent a 3-bedroom. It's too expensive, she said flatly. Then get a smaller place. Her smile faded into a frown. Why should we uproot everything when you have extra space sitting there unused? Because it's my home, I said. Dad sighed, setting down his fork like he was about to give a sermon. This is about family working together, he said. You've got the room, they've got the need. It's common sense. I tapped the folder. You wrote all this up like I'd already agreed. Did anyone think to actually ask me first? Silence. Then Laura said, we figured you'd be reasonable once you saw the numbers. I flipped to the so-called budget. No HOA fees. No maintenance. Utilities sliced in half like the power bill runs on Good Vibes. Rent listed at 0. I pushed it back across the table. Not happening. Her polite smile cracked. Why not? You don't even use the 2nd bedroom. That doesn't matter, I said. It's still mine. Her voice got sharper. It's just sitting there while we're drowning in bills, and you've got all this space you don't need. It's selfish. There it was again, selfish. Like all those years I spent grinding overtime shifts, eating noodles, skipping vacations, and saving every cent didn't count for anything. I leaned back. I looked at your lease, I said. Laura froze. What? It's public info. 3 months rent if you break it early, right? That's what this is really about. Ethan shifted in his chair. Laura's face flushed red. That's none of your business, she snapped. You made it my business, I said calmly. You're trying to move into my house to dodge a penalty. Just admit it. Mom frowned. Is that true? Laura shot me a death glare. We just need a fresh start. Why are you making this so hard? Because you showed up and acted like I had no say, I said. Like all my work doesn't matter because you want an easier option. Ethan finally spoke up. We're just trying to find a solution that works for everyone. Everyone or just you? I asked. He didn't answer. Laura turned to Mom, pleading. Tell her this makes sense. You know it does. Mom hesitated. Honey, they do have the baby to think about. Then maybe they should have planned better. I cut in. Instead of bringing fake spreadsheets and expecting me to hand over my keys, Laura slammed her hand on the table. We're family. Family helps each other. Family also respects boundaries, I said. You don't get to declare that my home isn't mine anymore because you can't manage your bills. Dad finally raised his voice. All right, that's enough. Let's calm down. No, I said, standing up. You all sat here ready to guilt trip me like I'm some kind of villain for protecting what's mine. I'm not doing it. Laura's voice cracked. So you'd rather see us homeless than help? You rent a 3-bedroom apartment, I said. Sell some stuff, break the lease, move to something smaller. People do it every day. But you're not moving in with me. Mom looked stunned. You don't mean that. I do, I said. This isn't a discussion anymore. Laura's face was bright red now. Ethan stared down at the table like he could disappear into it. I grabbed my jacket. Thanks for dinner, I said. Good luck with the lease. Nobody tried to stop me. As I walked out, I heard Laura mutter something to Mom about me being cold-hearted. I didn't even glance back. After that, the family chorus kicked in. Laura texting. We can still work this out. Mom calling with, family comes first. Dad leaving voicemails about the bigger picture. Even my uncle chimed in with, she has a baby, you don't. I stopped responding altogether. My mind was made up. About a week later, I came home after work and noticed something off near my front door. Fine scratches around the lock. A small scuff low on the wood, like someone had nudged it with a shoe. I ran my fingers over the marks, feeling my stomach tighten. Could have been nothing, sure. But I've lived here 5 years. I know every dent, every scratch, every spot that creaks when you walk across it barefoot. Those marks on the door weren't there before. My stomach dropped. I went inside, locked up tight, and sat at my laptop. Filled out the city's online non-emergency report. Just the basics. Possible tampering. No entry. No suspects. Hit submit, got the confirmation email, closed the lid. The next day, I swapped the old lock for a drill-resistant deadbolt and set up 2 cameras, one facing the hallway, another small motion-activated one inside pointed at the entry. Both recorded in high def and pinged my phone if they detected movement. Didn't cost much, but worth every dime if I was right about who might be creeping around. Nothing happened the first 2 nights. The cameras stayed quiet, but I still checked the feeds before bed. Phone volume up in case an alert came through. Then came night 3. 2:37 a.m. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. Motion detected at your door. I grabbed it and opened the feed. The black and white image flickered for a second, and there she was. Laura. Hoodie up, hair sticking out, shoulders hunched. Something metallic glinting in her hand, moving around the lock. My chest went tight. I hit record, swung my legs off the bed, and dialed 911 in a whisper. Someone's trying to break into my condo, I told the dispatcher. I've got video. I gave them the address and stayed on the line, eyes glued to the screen. Laura kept working the lock, calm and methodical, like she'd practiced, or like she was sure I wasn't home. Then the hallway lights kicked on automatically, flooding her in bright white. She froze for half a second, glanced over her shoulder, then went right back to jiggling the lock. The dispatcher said units were close and told me to stay inside. My pulse was pounding in my ears. A minute later, 2 cops appeared on the hallway cam, walking fast. Laura didn't notice them until they were practically on top of her. I stayed put until they called for her to step back, then opened my door and showed them the live feed. Her caught red-handed, the tools still in the lock. They asked for her ID. She stammered something about forgetting her keys. I showed them the video. The screwdriver was clear as day. They cuffed her right there in the hallway. I wasn't smug. I wasn't even mad. Just shaky, like my body hadn't caught up with what my brain already knew. The officers asked if I wanted to press charges. I said yes. One stayed to take my statement while the other walked Laura down the hall in cuffs. A few minutes later, Ethan showed up, hair messy, wearing sweatpants, looking like he'd sprinted over. "What's going on?" he asked, voice cracking. "She tried to break in," I said flatly. He turned to the cop, then back to me. "It's a misunderstanding. She had a spare key from before." I cut him off. "I never gave her a spare. She thought she still had one," he said weakly. "She didn't," I told him. He rubbed his face and didn't argue after that. Just mumbled something about calling a lawyer and followed the cops out. I locked up again, checked the deadbolt twice, then sat on the couch staring at nothing. The cameras kept recording until the hallway went quiet. The next morning I called off work for a few hours. I wanted everything documented before the family spin machine started. First stop, the police station. I handed over the video files, gave them the 911 case info. One of the officers said the footage made things pretty simple. They'd file the report, send it to the prosecutor, and I'd get updates. When I got home, I made 2 backups, one on a thumb drive, one in a locked cloud folder. Printed the incident report, tucked it in with my mortgage papers. Then I emailed my boss to say I'd be a bit late due to a personal security issue. He just replied, "Handle what you need to. Thanks for letting me know." I left it at that. By noon my phone was blowing up. Mom called first. "How could you do this to your sister?" she snapped. "She tried to break into my home at 2 in the morning, I said. "I didn't do this, she did." "You didn't have to call the police," Mom argued, like there'd been some other reasonable option. "She had a screwdriver in my lock," I said. "What was I supposed to do, invite her in for coffee?" "Family handles things privately," she said. "Privately meaning pretend it didn't happen?" I asked. She went quiet. A couple hours later Dad called. Same tone, different words. "She's got a baby," he said. "She made a mistake. Don't ruin her life over this." "She made her own choices," I told him. "I was asleep in my own home. I'm not apologizing for protecting it." He muttered something about me being cold, and I hung up before I said something worse. By that evening my aunt texted. "She didn't mean it. Drop the charges." I ignored it. 2 days later, a neighbor mentioned something about an old fraud case. Curiosity got me, so I checked court records. They're public if you know where to look. Sure enough, Laura had a fraud charge from 5 years back. Deferred sentence, probation, fine paid. Nothing huge, but it was there. I didn't post about it, didn't gossip, didn't go off online. I just kept things official. Sent the prosecutor whatever they needed. Answered questions, stayed polite. The case moved fast. They booked her on misdemeanor charges for attempted break-in, and that old record didn't help her cause. She pled guilty to avoid making it worse. The judge gave her 3 months and a criminal record that'd follow her this time. While she was inside, Ethan texted me a long paragraph about how they'd been under a lot of stress. Daycare bills, medical costs, rent climbing higher every month, life coming at them from all sides. That's what Ethan wrote. Said Laura was just trying to do what any parent would. Keep a roof over their baby's head. I read his message twice, saved it, and didn't reply. Their finances went downhill fast after that. They were still locked into a fixed-term lease, and when they broke it, that 3-month penalty hit hard. Afterward, they scrambled into a short month-to-month rental, and the rate shot up. With Laura out of work and now carrying a record, everything fell on Ethan's teacher salary. 3 months later, she was out. Mom told me they'd moved back in with her and Dad for a while. That's between you and them, I said. Not my business anymore. Mom didn't like that. She said the house was tense. Laura and Ethan bickering about money. Dad grumbling about the noise, Mom trying to hold it all together. I stayed out of it. A few weeks later, Dad stopped by my condo to drop off some mail that had been sent to their address. He looked worn out. Your sister's having a hard time, he said finally. She made her choices, I told him. She says you hate her now, he said. I don't hate her, I said. But I'm done being everyone's safety net while getting called selfish for having boundaries. He didn't argue. Just nodded, handed me the mail, and left. That was the last real conversation we had about any of it. My life fell back into rhythm quicker than I expected. Mornings at work, evenings at the gym, weekends fixing little things I'd been putting off for years. I finally got around to unsticking that living room window and painting the hallway with cheap rollers and way too much blue tape. Later, Mom mentioned that Laura wanted to clear the air. My first thought was that she wanted to pick another fight. My second was that she probably needed something. I didn't reach out. Instead, I mailed them one thing. A framed photo of my front door, shiny new lock and all. Underneath it, a small note. Hope you find a place that's yours. For real. No swearing. No insults. Just clear. 2 weeks later, Mom called. Laura wants to talk, she said gently, like she was afraid I might hang up. About what? I asked. She wants to apologize, Mom said. Does this apology come before or after she asks for something? I asked. Silence. I sighed. Fine. I'll meet her. But my home stays off the table. Nobody shows up uninvited. If she can't agree to that, I'm not coming. Mom said she understood. We set it for Saturday at their house. Neutral ground, she called it. When I got there, Laura was already sitting at the kitchen table, arms folded, chin high. Ethan sat next to her, staring at the table like he wished he were invisible. I sat across from them. All right, I said. You wanted to talk. Go ahead. Laura didn't waste time. You didn't have to call the cops, she snapped. Family doesn't do that to each other. I looked straight at her. You tried to break into my home. I was desperate, she said like that excused it. You wouldn't listen. You left us no choice. There was a choice, I said. You could have found another apartment like everyone else. She waved me off. Do you know how hard it is with a baby? With bills piling up? We needed help. You wanted a free place to live, I said flatly. We deserved help, she shot back. You don't have kids, you don't understand. All that space just sitting there while we were drowning. My jaw tightened. Space I worked for. Space I paid for while you called it tiny and laughed about it 5 years ago. Laura rolled her eyes. Oh, come on. That was different. No, I said evenly. You treated it like junk until you needed it. Then you decided it was yours. Not asked, decided. You could have let us stay a few months, she said. But no, you had to make a show of it. Pressing charges? Really? You ruined my record. You ruined your own record, I said. You're the one who showed up with a screwdriver at 2:30 in the morning. Laura leaned forward, eyes flashing. You think you're better than us because you've got a condo and no responsibilities? You think working extra hours makes you some kind of hero? I gave a short, dry laugh. No. It makes me the person who owns the home you tried to take. Her face flushed. We just needed a break. And I needed boundaries, I said. Now I have them. She opened her mouth, but I didn't let her. You ignored every no I gave you. You tried to break in, and now you're angry at me because it actually had consequences. Ethan finally spoke, voice low. She just means, it didn't have to get this far. It got exactly as far as she pushed it, I said. I'm not carrying that for her. Laura's fists clenched on the table. One day you'll need help, she said. Don't expect us to be there. I stood. Good. Then we're finally clear. She blinked like that wasn't the reaction she expected. I hope you figure things out, I said. But my home? Off limits. Forever. No debate. And I walked out before she could say another word. Weeks went by. Mom tried to organize a few family dinners, said we all needed to heal. I told her the same thing every time. If my condo comes up, I'm leaving. She said she understood. I went back to my normal routine. Work, gym, quiet evenings fixing things around the place. Bought a couple of cheap plants for the windowsill. Upgraded my desk chair. For the first time in forever, life just stayed still. One afternoon, a cousin mentioned that Laura had found a part-time job at a daycare. Ethan picked up tutoring shifts after school. A few months later, they moved into a small rental farther from the city. Older place, cheaper, but theirs. I didn't reach out. Not out of anger, just done. A year later, the condo looked better than it ever had. Fresh paint on every wall this time, not just the hallway. New locks on both doors. The squeaky floorboard near the bedroom finally fixed. I bought a decent couch to replace the lumpy one from college. Found a used rug that didn't clash with the curtains for once. Even my little closet office looked better. I put up a real shelf instead of balancing everything on milk crates. The plants by the window somehow survived, even grew new leaves. I watered them on schedule, gave them light, talked to them sometimes when the place got too quiet. Coming home felt different now. Not because it looked perfect, but because it was mine in a way it had never been before. I'd walk in after work, hear the deadbolt click behind me, and feel the weight in my shoulders ease. No surprise visits. No guilt trips. No lectures about being selfish. The silence didn't feel lonely anymore. It felt steady. For the first time in my life, I could sit on my couch with the TV off. No noise, no drama. Just me breathing in my own space without wondering who was going to ask for something next. It wasn't revenge. It wasn't victory. It was peace. And for me that was enough.